Hi, I'm Rachel Thompson, 38, and I have a story that still makes my blood boil. After my son Tommy's superhero-themed birthday party, a day I poured my heart into, my mother-in-law Helen secretly packed up all his presents and gave them to my sister-in-law Amy's son, Cooper, claiming he needed them more since his parents are divorcing. The party itself was magical. Tommy had been counting down for weeks, and the backyard had been transformed into a miniature Avengers headquarters. Red and blue balloon arches swayed in the breeze, cardboard cutouts of Iron Man and Captain America guarded the snack table, and superhero-themed music played softly in the background. "Mom, this is awesome." Tommy grinned, hugging me tight in his slightly oversized Spider-Man costume. His joy made every late night of planning worth it. "Only the best for my superhero," I smiled, adjusting his mask. But my smile faltered when Helen marched through the gate, trailed by Amy. Both were dressed in expensive sundresses, clearly ignoring my costume's encouraged request. "Rachel, dear," Helen began, her tone dripping with her usual condescension. "Couldn't you have done this at that indoor venue I mentioned? All this," she waved at the decorations, "seems a bit much for a child's party." Before I could respond, Tommy rushed over. "Grandma, Aunt Amy, look, I'm Spider-Man." Helen gave him a tight-lipped smile. "Yes, dear, though I must say, Cooper would have loved this theme too." Amy chimed in, her voice sugary sweet. "Poor Cooper was so disappointed he couldn't come. The divorce has been really hard on him, you know." I bit back my frustration. This was Tommy's day, not a therapy session for Cooper. "Well, Tommy's been looking forward to celebrating with his friends," I said firmly. "The kids should be arriving any minute." And soon they did. The yard filled with laughter as mini superheroes raced around, their faces painted with Iron Man masks and Captain America shields. Tommy's smile never wavered as we sang Happy Birthday and cut the cake. But Helen's presence loomed like a storm cloud. She cornered me by the drinks table. "Rachel, don't you think this is a bit excessive? Cooper never had such an elaborate party. And now, with everything going on." I took a deep breath. "This is Tommy's day, Helen. He's had a rough year with bullying, and—" Helen scoffed. "Oh, please. A few playground squabbles hardly compare to a divorce. Cooper is experiencing real trauma." I bit my tongue and returned to the party, determined not to let her ruin Tommy's special day. He was glowing as he opened each gift, marveling at action figures, Lego sets, and superhero gear. But Helen and Amy exchanged whispers and glances at the growing pile of presents. When the party ended, Helen offered to help clean up. "You must be exhausted, dear," she said, unusually sweet. "Amy and I can pack up the presents while you handle the goodie bags." Something felt off, but with kids running around and parents saying their goodbyes, I let it go. Later that evening, after Tommy had crashed in his Spider-Man costume, I went to bring his presents to his room, but the table where they'd been stacked was empty. "Mark," I called to my husband, trying to stay calm, "did your mom bring Tommy's presents inside?" Mark frowned. "She said she was loading them into her car to help us." My stomach dropped. I grabbed my phone and called Helen. "Of those presents," she said, as if we were discussing the weather, "I took them to Cooper's house. Poor boy needed cheering up, and Tommy had so many. It's good to teach kids about sharing." I was shaking. "You what?" "Those weren't yours to give away. They were Tommy's birthday gifts. His friends picked those out for him." "Now don't be dramatic," she replied dismissively. "Cooper's already opened them, and really, Rachel, it's a valuable lesson in generosity for Tommy." I hung up, seething. Mark, hearing everything, grabbed his phone. "She's gone too far this time," he muttered. But all I could think about was how I'd explain this to Tommy in the morning. Helen hadn't just stolen his gifts. She'd taken a piece of his joy, a piece of a memory I'd worked so hard to give him. And this time, I wasn't going to let her get away with it. The next morning, Tommy's heartache became my motivation. As I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, Mark placed a cup of coffee in front of me. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, his voice low so as not to wake Tommy. I nodded. "She needs to understand the damage she's caused. If Helen won't respect our boundaries, maybe public accountability will make her think twice before pulling something like this again." I opened a blank document and started typing. An open letter to Helen Thompson. "Dear Helen, yesterday, my son Tommy woke up excited to play with the birthday presents his friends had lovingly chosen for him. But instead of the joy and excitement he deserved, he was met with confusion and heartbreak. Why? Because you decided to take all his gifts and give them to his cousin, Cooper, without permission. You've always favored Cooper, and we've stayed quiet for years, hoping you'd change. But this time, your actions didn't just hurt me. They hurt a little boy who sees you as his grandmother, someone he's supposed to trust. Those gifts weren't just toys. They were tokens of love from children who care about Tommy. Gifts like the Legio Avengers set Jake spent weeks saving for because Tommy helped him when he was being bullied. Or the limited edition Spider-Man figure Sam picked out because Tommy once shared his lunch with him. By giving those gifts to Cooper, you dismissed not only Tommy's feelings but also the thoughtfulness and generosity of the children who gave them. You tried to teach Tommy a lesson about generosity. But maybe it's you who needs the lesson. About boundaries, respect, and fairness. I've spent years biting my tongue, enduring your subtle criticisms and favoritism. But you've gone too far. It's time for you to take responsibility and make this right. Return the gifts, apologize to Tommy, and show him that his feelings matter. Sincerely, Rachel. Mark read over my shoulder as I finished typing. This is good, but are you sure this will work? It's not just about her anymore, I said, my voice steady. It's about showing Tommy that we'll fight for him, even when the odds feel stacked against us. I posted the letter on my social media and in a local parenting group. Within hours, the post started gaining traction. Comments poured in from other parents, offering their support and sharing their own stories of difficult family dynamics. This is heartbreaking. Tommy deserves better. Good for you for standing up for your son. This is appalling. I hope Helen realizes how wrong she was. By the afternoon, the post had been shared dozens of times, and Helen's reputation was taking a hit. Several of her friends, who followed me on social media, messaged her directly. One even commented publicly, "Helen, this is unacceptable. How could you do this to your own grandson?" Helen called that evening, her tone dripping with indignation. "Rachel, what have you done? People are calling me, asking if this is true." "It is true, Helen," I said calmly. "And maybe now you'll understand how serious this is. You hurt Tommy and you need to fix it." "I can't believe you humiliate me like this," she snapped. "Humiliation wasn't my goal," I replied. "But accountability was. This isn't just about Tommy's presence, it's about how you treat him. If you want this to stop, make it right." Helen sputtered excuses but eventually hung up. An hour later, Mark's phone buzzed with a text. A photo of the gifts loaded back into Helen's car, along with a terse message. "I'll bring them by tomorrow." The next morning, Helen arrived with the presents, her face tight with anger. Tommy, still cautious, hesitated when she walked in. But when she handed him the first gift and muttered an apology, his face lit up. After she left, Mark and I sat Tommy down. "Listen, sweetheart," I said, holding his hand. "Grandma made a mistake, but your feelings matter, and we made sure she knew that. You should never be afraid to stand up for yourself." Tommy nodded solemnly, then tore into his presents with renewed excitement. As he showed me each one, my heart swelled. He hadn't just gotten his gifts back, he'd gotten back the joy Helen tried to steal from him. And as for Helen, she stayed distant for a while after that, her pride no doubt bruised. But one thing was clear. I wouldn't be silent anymore when it came to protecting my son. I started with a single post in our community Facebook group, a hub of 15,000 local parents who shared advice, recommendations, and event updates. My message was concise but factual. Warning about birthday party theft. My mother-in-law stole my 7-year-old's birthday presents to give to another grandchild. Parents, please be aware that your children's thoughtful gifts were taken without permission. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, parents from Tommy's party began commenting, sharing the special meaning behind the stolen gifts. Jake's mom, Lisa, described how her son had saved his allowance for weeks to buy Tommy the Legio set. Another parent talked about searching for the limited edition Spider-Man toy Tommy had mentioned loving. Screenshots of the post spread beyond our local group. Soon, the story had reached Helen's Precious Country Club circles, where her reputation was everything. At 8 a.m. the next morning, my phone rang. It was Margaret, Helen's best friend from the club. "Helen, why am I hearing that you stole children's birthday presents? Please tell me this isn't true." Before Helen could contain the damage, the floodgates opened. The president of her charity board called. Her bridge club, Even her pastor, her carefully curated image as the gracious, charitable matriarch, was unraveling. Later that day, Amy showed up at our door, pale and trembling. The moms at Cooper's school are furious. They're saying Cooper can't come to birthday parties because we steal presents. You have to take down the post. I stared at her, incredulous. Like you took down the photos of Cooper posing with Tommy's stolen presents? I asked coldly. Those gifts meant something to every child who gave them. They weren't yours to take. Amy tried to argue. Cooper's been having such a hard time since the divorce. Stop using your divorce as an excuse, I snapped, cutting her off. Tommy's been bullied at school for months. Did you or Helen ever care about that? No, because Tommy's not your perfect golden child. He's just the one you can ignore. Amy's face crumpled. For a moment, I thought she might defend herself. But instead, she whispered, I didn't think about it that way. Cooper was upset, and Mom said this would make him feel better. And did it? Mark asked, stepping in. Did stealing from Tommy fix anything for Cooper? Before Amy could answer, the doorbell rang. Helen stood there, looking disheveled, an unusual sight for her. She marched inside without an invitation. You need to fix this, she demanded. My reputation. It's exactly what you deserve, Mark interrupted sharply. Remember when Tommy was being bullied and you said he needed to toughen up? Meanwhile, you coddle Cooper for every little thing. Cooper's situation is different, Helen argued. Yes, it is, I said quietly, my voice steady. Cooper has two parents who love him and are going through a tough time. Tommy has a grandmother who makes him feel like he doesn't matter. My words seemed to land. Helen's bravado faltered, and she sank into the couch, looking older than I'd ever seen her. I just wanted to help Cooper, she murmured. By hurting Tommy, Mark pressed. The silence that followed was broken by the sound of small footsteps. Tommy stood in the doorway, still in his Spider-Man pajamas, his face uncertain. Helen looked at him, really looked at him, for what felt like the first time. I'm sorry, Tommy, she said, her voice trembling. Grandma made a big mistake. An hour later, Helen returned with all of Tommy's presents. Some were already opened, but they were all there. She even wrote a public apology on my Facebook post, admitting her actions and promising to make amends. 2 weeks later, Helen showed up with 2 identical Avengers Lego sets, one for Tommy, one for Cooper. She hesitated at the door. Maybe the boys could build them together. Tommy looked at me, seeking permission. I smiled and nodded. His face lit up. Cooper can come over. I'll show him my superhero headquarters. As the boys played, Helen sat beside me, her hands twisting in her lap. I've been unfair, she admitted softly, to all of you. I was so focused on Cooper's pain that I didn't see what I was doing to Tommy, or to you. It wasn't a perfect resolution. Years of favoritism had left scars, and trust wouldn't be rebuilt overnight. But as I watched Tommy excitedly showing Cooper his superhero collection, I felt a flicker of hope. Sometimes it takes a public fall from grace to confront private failings. Helen had learned that the hard way. But more importantly, Tommy learned that his feelings mattered, and that his parents would always fight for him, no matter who stood in the way. What about you? Would you have exposed Helen's actions publicly or tried to handle it privately? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.